Hello, 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 hello. Hey, this is Warren Redlick. Thank you so much for watching. Everyone is focused on OpenAI and Anthropic when they talk about what's happening in AI. If you watch CNBC, you watch the other, read the newspapers, whatever, the financial newspapers. So much talk about OpenAI and Anthropic. Some talk about SpaceX, some talk about NVIDIA, but there's a really big focus on OpenAI and Anthropic. But in this video, we're going to discuss two big questions. Which companies, which people have the advantages that matter the most over the next 5 years in the world of AI? And then what I think is really interesting is who were the wild cards? You can see right here, Mira Murati is one of those. We're going to start with her.
It's more like creating systems that are not just like autonomously advancing and leaving civilization behind, but like creating systems that are not just like autonomously advancing and leaving civilization behind, but are more like a tandem bike where you have both people are pedaling. When you're going up a hill, maybe whoever is stronger is pedaling harder, but both hands are on the wheel. That's a different.
So one of the issues in AI that there's a little bit more with Mira. There's two key points here. One is we keep hearing about the big players. We don't hear about the so-called lesser players. Mira Murati is a billionaire co-founder of, I think she was a co-founder or leader of OpenAI, founded a startup called Thinking Machines. We're going to talk about her later. But there's an approach to AI that is very common among the LLM companies, the leading companies. And there's a lot of talk about just letting the AI run, turn it into an agent. And her approach is very different. She's talking about the AI working with the human, not just keeping human in the loop, which is what she was distinguishing from, but both of us paddling together. It's an interesting analogy. I'm not saying she's right or she's wrong. I just think it's an interesting analogy, the way she puts it. But let's listen a little more.
System. It's a system designed for collaboration. That's what we're trying to build with Thinking Machines, and I think it's quite differentiated. I hope that it will increase the level of agency that people have, and also it will help us steer the research direction towards creating outputs that are more value aligned. And
So one of the hot issues in AI that's been a hot issue for a while is alignment. If you have an AI that is not aligned with humanity, then the AI is more likely to destroy humanity. If you have an AI that's aligned with humanity, it's more likely to support us and help us grow and work with us. And just check to make sure we're doing okay here. Everybody can hear me. I see no particular problems in the chat. So when you think about what AI is doing, her approach is if we instead of sending the AI off to go do work wherever, let's get the AI to collaborate with humans, and then it'll be aligned with the human that it's collaborating with. I've always felt alignment is iffy. Like, do you want it aligned with Putin or do you want it aligned with Ukraine? Do you want it aligned with Hamas or do you want it aligned with Israel? Like I think the idea of aligning with human interests is tricky because human interests are not uniform. But her vision and Elon Musk's vision is a truth-seeking AI. That if it seeks truth, that's aligned with what humanity should be seeking. That's an interesting approach. Her approach is if the AI is aligned with the human that it's working with and they're collaborating, that's a form of alignment.
you also get alignment as a result of this approach, in addition to usefulness, like actually creating technologies that are useful in the real.
So useful is another key point. We just saw the story with Uber that they were spending a crazy amount of money on AI and then it wasn't producing anything of value. You want the AI to be useful. What is it doing that's useful? And I think there's a lot of concerns that a lot of spend on AI and a lot of what AI is doing is not necessarily useful. We're going to come back to Mira later. She is one of the wild cards we're going to talk about later. Again, we're going to talk about we're going to talk about OpenAI and Anthropic briefly. They're the ones that get the most air. The foundation models, the frontier models seem to get the most air. We're going to talk about who else matters in AI. And then we're going to talk about who the wild cards are. Mira Murati is one of them. Okay, so fundamentally, AI is becoming an infrastructure business. It's not who has the smartest researchers. I've been saying on this channel for a while, it's who has the most compute and the cheapest compute. I just want to see here. Okay. Who has the most compute? Who has the cheapest compute? OpenAI has great models. I use ChatGPT. I pay for ChatGPT. I pay for Gemini. I pay for Grok. I haven't paid for Claude yet. There's a whole nother story there. They have great models, but their compute is expensive. If you want to use what they have at scale, it gets very expensive very fast. Grok and Gemini and Cursor, there's other AIs out there that you get very good quality, but much lower cost. And cost matters. And customers are starting to care more about value. And you have this question: do OpenAI and Anthropic have a path to low cost compute? I don't know that they do. I think that's a critical issue facing OpenAI and Anthropic. And we're going to talk about who else matters in a minute. The way this video is going to go is we have a main story we're going to talk about, and I got a couple of breaks in the middle. We're about to hit the first break, quick break, and then we're going to get into who are the companies that are most likely to succeed in terms of reasonable cost of compute and having a lot of compute. And I think some of you know the answers to these questions, but we're going to get into that and what distinguishes who has compute and who has more. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. But first, just really quick, um, I have a segment on the AI stocks report, or the AI stocks report here, where I talk about Podwatch and CEO Watch, and I am shocked. The Broadcom CEO Hock Tan was interviewed by Bloomberg Tech, and I just watched this video. It shows it wasn't complete when I took the screenshot, but I actually watched the complete video. This was 2 days ago. It has 18,000 views. This is the CEO of one of the most important companies in AI. I'm going to be talking about them in a minute. And actually this was a brilliant conversation. This was one of the best I've watched. I would encourage you to watch this. And right at the beginning of this, the interviewer, he's literally sitting down. He's literally like gets in his chair and fires off the first question. And I'm paraphrasing the question. It was basically, investors say you're screwed. What's your answer to that? Like it just like it wasn't like a pleasant start. It was like fireball right from the get-go. The first two questions were absolute fireballs, and he handled them. He handled them great, but it was a really, really interesting conversation. I don't normally recommend things this effusively, but number one, he's a really important guy. He steered Broadcom to where they are today. And his answers, like the guy was asking, well, what about all this competition? He's like, well, that's the way it's supposed to be. We're supposed to have competition. We're in a profitable business. There's supposed to be competition. We'll be okay. We've dealt with this for years. He was so smooth and so level and like, yeah, we'll be okay. We have good engineers. It turns out. It turns out we're good at what we do, and we have certain advantages, and we're in all these different areas, and yeah, our customers are doing things that and we're all working together. It'll be good, but competition's part of the game. But the way the fireball came out right at the beginning, it wasn't, you're an idiot, but it was just the question was worded up slightly more less aggressively than that. But I took it as like, wow, it like literally hadn't completed sitting down when he started the question, and the first question was a fireball. So highly recommend this one. And then the other thing I just want to mention really quick, listen to this. This is Elon.
Will be such that you can run anyone's AI on hardware or software on the Tesla AI satellite, or SpaceX AI satellites.
Wait, what? Elon referred to the Tesla AI satellites and then corrected himself to the SpaceX AI satellites. I'm going to play that one again for you.
Will be such that you can run anyone's AI on hardware or software on the Tesla AI satellite, or SpaceX AI satellites.
So I'm now starting the conspiracy theory. There's this huge thing in the Tesla community that SpaceX is going to merge with Tesla and SpaceX will become the parent company. And I am now starting this rumor, which I've just totally made up, based on Elon saying that Tesla is going to acquire SpaceX. And the advantage, by the way, is S&P 500 is not going to recognize SpaceX in its index. So that's going to affect SpaceX stock. It's not going to get the same boost that you would get if all the index funds had to buy it. But if Tesla acquires SpaceX, then the index funds have it. Tesla's already in the index. Now, the value of Tesla grows and the index funds have to buy more Tesla stock. See? I'm a genius. That's another wild card for you. Okay, I'm just messing around with you. But let's turn to back to this question, who the wild cards are, and we're going to start before we get to the wild cards with who are the best known figures in AI? Who are the, for lack of a better term, the favorites, the leaders in the world? So the first one, remember, it's who has the most compute, who has the best cost of compute. So AWS, Amazon, Microsoft, Google, we're going to talk about Google more later, and Meta are what are called hyperscalers. They have gobs of compute. They are the ones with the most compute. Uh, Thank you, Mark. Mark appreciates my joke. Um, Mark in the chat appreciates my joke. Mark is the moderator of our chat. So these four, and focus on Amazon Web Services, Microsoft, and Meta. They have large amounts of compute. Uh, Google is one of the other hyperscaler. Those are the four hyperscalers, and there are other companies that have a lot of compute, but these are the four big ones, and they're spending crazy money building out more compute. And if you're paying attention, Google just, I think they're paying $1 billion a quarter or close to $1 billion a quarter for access to SpaceX's compute. So SpaceX is sort of joining this group of hyperscalers, but they're not being called a hyperscaler yet. So leaving Google out of this, the other three have a lot of compute, but they do not have leading frontier AI models like ChatGPT, like Anthropic, like Grok, and like Gemini. Meta has Meta AI, and it's terrible. I try it every once in a while. Every once in a while, I try Meta AI. Awful. Just and maybe somebody else has better experience with it, but my experience with Meta and Microsoft and Amazon don't even really try. They're not even. It's a tremendously huge investment. You need a spectacular team, and they're, as far as I know, they're not. I think Microsoft has Copilot for coding, but Microsoft is mainly working with OpenAI. Amazon and Microsoft, they all have their own custom chips. Meta has the MTIA chip, Google has the TPUs, Amazon has Trainium. I don't remember what Microsoft has, but they all have their own custom chips. There's this false impression that they don't use Nvidia. That's not true. They're the biggest buyers of Nvidia out there. Um, so they're players, but to my mind, they are not the ultimate dominant players in the world of AI because they don't have their own models. So they're kind of at one level of the stack, right? To some extent, I would say Microsoft, Amazon, and Meta are the levels of the stack that matter are: do you have a model? Do you have compute? Do you have access to customers? Now, Microsoft, Amazon, and Meta all have reasonable access to a fair number of customers, and they have the compute, but they don't have the model. Okay, they don't have a frontier model that's worth talking about. Meta's sort of got an open source model, Llama. They've been working on it, but that every time I try it, it's like, oh, it's terrible. Now, another note, as you if you've been paying attention, there's been two deals where Anthropic is paying SpaceX a lot for compute, and now Google is paying SpaceX a lot for compute. And Elon, in September of 2025, so not quite a year ago, posted this. I think he was joking. Buy a shitload of GPUs. Step two, I don't know. And then step three, profit. And that's what SpaceX did. And that's what SpaceX did. And the middle one, we don't even know. He doesn't even know what they did. So everybody's laughing about the fact that Elon basically predicted this back in September. It's not even clear he knew what he was doing. It's not even clear he thinks he knew he knew what he was doing. So, okay, we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that in a minute. Another group of companies to think about are the hardware companies like Nvidia. Nvidia being the prominent one. Nvidia is a big player in AI. No matter how you slice it, they're a huge player in AI. They have the chips. They, as far as I know, they don't have models, but we'll see. Um, they don't have direct access to the customers, right? But they have access to business to some extent. But they're primarily just they supply chips and data center equipment to the hyperscalers and then to some other companies. Um, and then you have a lot of other companies in the hardware sector, and they're all important because you can't build your data centers without them. So they're all good plays if you are an investor and saying, I want to invest in hardware companies. There's a lot of questions about which hardware company you should invest in. Are they overpriced? But you have at the chip level, you have NVIDIA, you have AMD, you have Broadcom, you have networking hardware, including Broadcom again. NVIDIA has some I think they all have some networking hardware. Marvell Networks has been hot lately. Um, Arista, I think it's called AristaNet. A bunch of these companies at the hardware level, and then you have the supply chain for that, which includes TSMC, it includes ASML, Samsung makes chips, SK Hynix makes memory, Micron makes memory. There's a whole bunch of companies in this hardware layer, infrastructure layer, and then I consider hyperscalers to be part of the infrastructure layer. That's a tricky one. Like, where do you draw the line between infrastructure and compute? I think compute is effectively infrastructure for the models. So then you have SpaceX and Google, which are special, and we're going to talk about them next. So Google is paying something like uh, $900 million a quarter to SpaceX for compute. Anthropic is paying for compute from SpaceX. Um, there's a bunch of questions about this deal, and there's this theory that since Google owns a percentage of SpaceX, they did this deal to pump SpaceX up for the IPO so then they could sell their stock, which is locked up for like 90 days afterwards. It doesn't really make sense, but okay, whatever. So if this guy Frank says, I wonder why Google, who primarily uses TPUs for their AI work, is leasing NVIDIA GPUs from SpaceX. And he has this conspiracy theory. This is not the first time we're going to see it. Oh, that's right. They own 6% of SpaceX, and a successful IPO will give them 100 billion reasons to artificially inflate SpaceX revenue pre-IPO. No. So first of all, Google is one of NVIDIA's largest customers. All the hyperscalers buy NVIDIA hardware. I'm not convinced that Google spends more on Broadcom and TPUs than it spends on NVIDIA. Their customers want to use the NVIDIA hardware. So this idea that um, there's a South Park reference. Did I make a South Park reference by accident? There's this idea that oh, Google doesn't need NVIDIA GPUs, and they only use TPUs. That's not true. Amazon has their own custom ASIC, but they also use NVIDIA hardware. Meta has their own custom chip, but they use NVIDIA hardware. They all use NVIDIA hardware. A lot of the people who are setting up their cloud work, doing AI work in the cloud, are using NVIDIA hardware. They want to use NVIDIA hardware. So all the hyperscalers buy NVIDIA hardware. NVIDIA isn't selling all this hardware to nobody, right? Who's the hardware going to, and who are the biggest buyers? The hyperscalers are the biggest buyers. So I'd like, where do you think NVIDIA is selling all their chips? I so that um and here's another one. Robert says that the SpaceX business model now of somehow they're a data center business and they're not a frontier AI business, ignoring the fact that SpaceX is both renting out space on their data centers and using their data centers for their frontier models. They're doing both. He says building and renting data centers is a good business, but it doesn't give you a 2x multiple on revenue. It doesn't? A company that spent $10 billion building data centers is worth only a little more than $10 billion. An AI company spent $10 billion training a frontier model can expect 100 billion. I don't know where he's getting this from. 100 billion or even $1 trillion valuation. So here's what I see. SpaceX is going to complete this IPO. They're going to raise about $75 billion, and they're going to put about $50 billion into a new data center with Vera Rubin GPUs. I've talked about this multiple times. It'll be about a gigawatt because Vera Rubin is so much more efficient than the current generation of hardware. It's going to be effectively 10 times the output, the AI output, for the same amount of energy input, and at somewhat higher cost for the hardware. But the construction costs are less because the way NVIDIA's designed the racks, it's easier to assemble. It's there's lower costs along the way, and the electricity costs might be lower. Or sorry, the electricity cost isn't lower because they're both 1 gigawatt, but the cost per token is lower, and it's basically a potentially 10x. So if SpaceX is able to take its 1 gigawatt data center and generate what's looking like $20 billion a year in revenue from Anthropic and Google, and still have compute left over to use themselves. Don't forget Cursor's also in there using some compute. But if they're just getting $20 billion a year for 1 gigawatt of compute, and now they open a 10x more efficient 1 gigawatt data center, then they might get $200 billion a year in revenue on a $50 billion investment. And this guy thinks that isn't worth much. It's like they don't take the steps to. It's so striking to me how many people are critical of SpaceX and Google and whoever, and they don't take time to think through. Wait a minute, how does this work out? How do the numbers work? And it's extremely powerful. And I posted. I was in one of my videos recently. The OpenAI CFO was being interviewed. I think it was on the All In Pod, and she said, "There's no compute available in 2026." And it doesn't look good for 2027. It is very hard to get compute. So if you have available compute, you can rent it out for a very good price. And that's what SpaceX is doing. And they'll be doing it next year and they're going to make a crazy amount of money for it. And they're going to use that money and what compute they have left over to train Grok. And Elon said Grok 1.5 trillion parameter model is in reinforcement learning now. I didn't clip that for you, but just quick check on the chat. Is the SpaceX marketplace really $45 trillion is a question? I think you're referring to the total addressable market that they included in their IPO document. And I've said this before. That graphic, I don't have a copy of the graphic handy, but that graphic is a little bit, I don't want to say misleading. It's like people are misinterpreting it. What SpaceX is saying is on the first 4 bars of that, the smaller bars, they're dominant. Sorry, the first 3 bars, they're dominant, which is launch and connectivity, right? And then the fourth bar is data centers where they've got a significant chunk and they're making a lot of money. So it's like a $2 trillion total addressable market there. They don't need a $45 trillion total addressable market to be worth $2 trillion, right? If you have high margins and you have a $2 trillion of revenue and you make 70% margins, then you're worth like more than $10 trillion. So that's the thing. I think in Ron Barron's numbers, it's $14 trillion valuation just on Starlink alone. So you have to process that their long-term cost structure is very low and their long-term revenue structure is very high. That's the point. So, all right, let's get back to here. We addressed this guy. We got one more. I got one more after this, but Ricardo, I'm going to do this. Big tech just ran out of money building AI, and what they're doing to cover it up should be illegal. Google, Amazon, Microsoft, and Meta are spending a combined $700 billion this year, eats up 94%. The richest companies in human history are almost broke. They're not broke. And instead of slowing down, they're covering up the biggest financial engineering operation since 2008. Google just sold $80 billion in stock to fund AI infrastructure. That was their first equity raise in 20 years. Um, the company prints $100 billion in ad revenue, just told Wall Street that it isn't enough anymore. Amazon's free cash flow. All 4 hyperscalers now borrowing hundreds of billions in bonds to keep the AI build out alive. And here's what's going on. There's a disconnect. And there's a fundamental issue that you have to decide for yourself if you're going to invest in these companies. Do you believe the AI demand story? What I see, and look, you can disagree with me. I'm just going to tell you what I see. I use AI. I use it to help prepare these videos. I use it to generate uh, the thumbnails. I have conversations with Grok and ChatGPT before any video to sort of think through how am I going to present everything, including this live stream. I have been using AI to build language learning apps. I've been taking a break while I've been I committed to building this pivot on my content about a month ago, and so I've kind of taken a break from building the language learning apps. But I've been using AI to build language learning apps, and it's shocking how helpful it is in building things, and not just software. I had a conversation. This is probably a couple of months ago with Gemini. If those who follow me a long time know I have this idea about building a single passenger self electric vehicle designed for self-driving from the ground up that would theoretically cost a couple $1,000s and be able to deliver rides for a nickel a mile. And whether I ever succeed in that, of course, if you follow me long enough, it's kind of comical that Warren thinks he could pull this off. I still think I might be able to pull it off, but I'm getting a little more skeptical myself. But I had a conversation with Gemini. My big problem lately is, look, I've got money. I'm in Thailand. Engineers are cheap here. Like literally, you can hire an engineer for less than $10,000 a year here. And I don't see. I tried to hire and I can't find someone. So I'm having a conversation with Gemini, and Gemini's like, "Ah, you can do that yourself. I can talk you through it. You'll need to hire out a shop to do this thing or that thing." And it's like, we're going through every step I'm going to need to do to build the Podcar prototype. And Gemini has me convinced I can do it myself. So maybe next year. Um, Interesting question in the chat from Mr. Senawijan. Why can't Tesla make the Model Y long range in Canada and the US? I don't understand your question. As far as I know, Tesla does make a Model Y long range in the US at both Fremont and Texas. I don't think they make any vehicles in Canada. And I must have missed, maybe there's a story about they stopped selling the Model Y long range into Canada and the US, but I don't think so. Did I see the United Launch Alliance launch of Bozo satellites? Looked expensive. Yeah, the other launch costs are very expensive. So, um, so anyway, it's just, the business model. If you believe that AI is a game changer, like my metaphor is, the AI is the ocean. It's an ocean, and most people aren't at the beach yet. I'm about knee deep in the water, ankle deep in the water. I've got friends who are swimming deep. Some people are starting to build ships. In 5 years, everyone's going to be in the water. Some people are going to be building fleets. The scale of growth. If you know my investing story, I bought Amazon in 2013 because I saw the wave coming. I've missed some waves that I should have seen coming, but I and I saw the Tesla wave coming, right? So if you see a company, if you see a trend, and you say this is going to be big, and you can catch it as an investor, and if you believe in it, like you have to have conviction, right? If you don't want to invest everything in something that you don't believe in, right? But if you believe in it and you do your research and you do your so-called due diligence and you make sure that everything checks out, and then you look for where's the opportunities. Now with these guys, if you listen to these guys, then all the AI companies are a scam. AI is going to be a flop. If famously, Paul Krugman said that the internet would be no more important than the fax machine, right? Paul Krugman, Nobel Prize winning economist, said that the internet would have no more impact on the world than the fax machine. I think some of us can agree that the internet was more prominent than that. Now, when I look at AI and I see how much it enables me to do, and I see how much it's enabling friends of mine to do things, I see AI demand growing hugely. And I think when you follow these waves of technology, there will be killer apps coming. I think there will be, in about 2 or 3 years, you will start seeing real-time video. You'll be able to have basically a real-time interactive video conversation with an AI pretending to be a human or whatever you want them to pretend to be. Maybe they'll be a cat. Um, and there will be an adult entertainment version of that will be, every wave of technology has an adult entertainment version that's just gobsmackingly huge. And there's killer apps that we can't anticipate. To me, it's obvious that there will be killer apps. We don't know what they are. We can't call the killer apps. So if you don't believe that, then you shouldn't be investing in AI companies. These guys are right. It's a house of cards. It's all going to collapse. If you believe, like I do, that we're only at the beginning of what Elon calls a supersonic tsunami of demand, and that supply will never be able to keep up with demand, is my perspective is that demand is going to grow so fast that supply will not be able to keep up, and anybody who's anywhere in the business you have to work really hard to not make money. You have to work really hard to not succeed. You have to really screw up badly to not succeed in this business. It's just, there's just so much opportunity for growth. There's so much demand that there'll be many opportunities for companies to succeed. I do think some will succeed more than others, and that's where you want to look. It makes Warren feel good. Thank you, Mark. I feel good no matter what. Um, so if you don't believe in the wave, if you don't believe the technology is a game changer for society, then okay, then AI investing is not for you. I don't know, buy bonds, buy, you know, Ford, buy Toyota, buy, bank stocks. I don't know what you buy. I don't know what you buy if you believe that. But you don't buy AI companies because you think they're going to the whole thing, the whole house of cards is going to collapse if you believe that. I I I don't know the thinking. All right, there's one more. I want to show you this clip. play this clip for you.
Anthropic, they leaked, or however, that they were profitable. They were profitable in 2 months when Elon Musk they gave them a discount on their compute through SpaceX.
So this guy is anti everybody, Ed Zitron. And in particular, he hates, Elon, SpaceX, Tesla, whatever, Anthropic. But he says Elon gave Anthropic a discount. Think about that for a second. We've been saying, I've been saying, okay, don't tell me SpaceX is $18 billion in revenue. Now they've got 15 billion from Anthropic. Now they got another 11 billion from Google. They're $60 billion a year revenue run rate on what they've got so far, and who knows what growth is going to be when they do the next AI data center. And this guy's saying, no. They gave Anthropic a discount. So the real value of the data centers is even higher. Right? So somehow this guy is saying that SpaceX is not charging enough for their data centers, and at the same time he thinks they shouldn't be able to IPO for the valuation they're at. He was mainly in this conversation. He was critical of the OpenAI and Anthropic IPOs, but all the people who are crapping on the SpaceX IPO, saying, "Oh, the Anthropic deal's a sham, the Google deal's a sham." Well, wait a minute. If SpaceX is giving them a discount, why is it a sham? Right? Are they giving Anthropic and Google a discount? Then it's not a sham. Then SpaceX should actually be valued higher. It doesn't make any sense. This is one of the things about the critics is they will fire anything they can, and they're completely inconsistent. Make up your mind. Is Google? You just saw two other people say that Google is overpaying for access to compute they don't need, and this guy is saying that SpaceX isn't charging enough for the compute that they're renting out. I don't know. I mean, they're making a lot of money on it, and I just find that hilarious. Okay, so I just want to get back to the message. The underlying story is that you have we covered Amazon, Meta, Oracle as hyperscalers. We've talked about Nvidia and the hardware companies, and that they're picks and shovels, as Tom Nash likes to call them. And then you have SpaceX and Google are sort of, I put them in the same category. They have low cost compute. They have frontier models, Grok and Gemini, which I use. I pay for both of them, and I pay for ChatGPT. And they have customer access in a way that I think Meta sort of has it in the same way. I'm not sure to what extent Amazon. I don't use Amazon anymore because I'm in Thailand, and you can't really use Amazon well in Thailand. I don't use Microsoft at all, so I don't know. But Google's doing a really good job of putting Gemini everywhere. So if I'm on Gmail, I can see there's a button to click to ask Gemini something. If I'm in Calendar, if I'm in Maps, if I'm in YouTube, I can ask Gemini, "Hey, at what time code in this video do they talk about this?" I seriously do this all the time now with YouTube. And Grok has the X platform with billions of users. YouTube has billions of users, a billion users each or something like that. So they have ability to get their frontier model in front of a lot of people. And then Tesla gives Grok access in the cars. Unfortunately, not the Thai Teslas yet. So they're in a special category, SpaceX and Google. And what I'm saying when I talk about who's the wild card, there's who are the potential winners without talking about wild cards first. And SpaceX and Google to me look like they are the leading candidates to be the big winners because they have low cost compute, they have excellent frontier models, and they have this customer access. Not to mention, great teams and all that other stuff and great leadership, right? Demis Hassabis with Google DeepMind and Sundar's pretty good as the CEO. Obviously, I think Elon is brilliant and the team that Elon builds is brilliant. So we're going to go on to the wild cards next. But before we do the wild cards, I just want to do our AI stocks report.
Anthropic, they leaked, or however.
Not that. AI stocks report. So we have two indexes that I've made up. I will be revising these after the IPOs. The AISRX is our main index with the leading AI companies, and our AISRY index. Again, I made these up; these are not official. And the stocks were hammered on Thursday and Friday. AI stocks were hammered on Thursday and Friday. Two reasons why they were hammered. Neither one of them makes sense to me. Number one, Broadcom announced their quarterly earnings. It was good news, but their forecast for the future wasn't as optimistic as Wall Street wanted, and that started tanking the stocks. And you can see Broadcom down 16% on the week. And I think they were up initially in the week, so they just everything crashed. The AISRX down 8%, the AISRY down 5.75%, Micron down 16.5%, Oracle down 14%, Palantir down 16%. A lot. Nvidia, normally very steady, took a big beating. Google, of course, Google is like the least volatile of the AI stocks. It's really striking how not it doesn't go up when everybody goes up. It doesn't go down whenever they have good news. It doesn't move the stock. ASML is the company that makes the hardware for um, that you build chip fabs from. And Marvel Networks, they fell a lot on Thursday and Friday, but they went up dramatically on Monday through Wednesday because Jensen Huang said something nice about them. Said they were going to be a $1 trillion, like a $200 billion company. Said they were the next $1 trillion company. So the stock took off because Jensen said something nice about them, and the teardown didn't take them down below where they started. And then the other piece of news that tanked the stocks was um, the other piece of news that tanked the stocks that I just find absolutely hilarious. This is the I don't know if it's called this is a paradox. Okay, the jobs report, the U.S. jobs report indicated that there were more jobs than people expected. There weren't as many layoffs, or their jobs increased. And this is bad. Like, this is Wall Street for you. This is bad news, right? It's bad news because supposedly this means interest rates won't go down. What's comical about this for me is the big knock on AI is AI is going to destroy jobs. And yet we have more jobs. Jensen Huang has been beating the drum. No, no, no. AI is creating jobs. We're hiring like crazy. We're building data. When you build data centers, you need all these people. There's plumbers making more money than I am. The plumbers are living high on the hog. There's plumbers, getting double pay for doing all this work. There's electricians, whatever. All these technical guys are getting hired and getting paid tons of money, and they're working extra hours, making massive amounts of money building data centers, and it's like an endless stream of cash. So the jobs were good, so the stock market went down, and it like tanked hard. I mean, you can see this is a hard tanking job. Tesla surprisingly didn't fall nearly as much as usually Tesla's one of the most volatile stocks, and Tesla didn't fall that much. All my friends are like, "Oh no, Tesla's down." I'm like, the whole market's down. Tesla was 345 in April. Get over it. Okay, so I just wanted to cover that. That was our stocks report, and now we're going to go back into the wild cards. So the first wild card we talked about was Mira Murati, human-centered AI. I think there's a bunch of different players who are high level, super intelligent people who understand AI at a very high level. And she's got some massive funding round. She's got, her paper net worth is now over $1 billion. She's got a great team, and they're working on an approach to AI. They have a product that's out. I think they have a new product that's coming out. So I think it's called Tinker is the product they have. I looked at it. I didn't think it was exciting, but I don't know. I think it's an early stage thing, and if they can get the latency down, like when you talk to the AI, it's like sort of you talk to the AI and you collaborate with the AI, and like right now, if you're using a chat bot, you talk to it and it does something and it comes back and there's a back and forth. But they have this one where it recognizes that when other people walk in the room and engages, it continues to do work in the background while you ask it to do other things. Okay. And I think that she has some more cool stuff coming out. And it may be that something like that will end up being better than the approach at scale for everyone. You remember, there's the people who are in the water already and they're doing stuff like coding, but that's not necessarily the future of AI. There's agentic AI. Is agentic AI really the future of AI? I'll be doing a video in the near future about whether agentic AI is really the future of AI. I'm not as convinced. There's a lot of people believe it is. A lot of people probably smarter than me. I'm not so sure that agentic AI is the large future of AI. Maybe it is. But someone like her and Ilya Sutskeyer, who was also at OpenAI, who's one of the most brilliant minds in AI. Brilliant. We don't know. It's called Safe Superintelligence. This is his startup. He's raised, ridiculous amounts of money, very well funded. We don't know exactly what he's doing. And you wonder, there's a classic line. What did Ilya see? When Ilya was at OpenAI, there was this theory that he saw something that scared him or whatever. What was it? Sam Altman? What did he see? AGI? Did he see something in ChatGPT that scared him? We don't know. But he's pursuing a startup called Safe Superintelligence. Maybe he's got an approach that's going to be better. So I don't mean to limit it to Mira and Ilya, but there's many top AI type people out there, computer geniuses who are working on different approaches to AI, and maybe somebody's going to come up with something that's better than what everybody else is doing already. I can't say for sure. I just think that there's an angle there. And there's one more angle that's loosely like that we're going to talk about. That's my favorite wild card. We'll get to that in a minute. So, the third wild card is China. People do not talk about China as much as I think they should. They have massive electricity, much more electricity available. Electricity is critical to turning on. If you have your data center, you don't have the electricity for it, you can't turn it on. They have great infrastructure. They have a great supply chain. There's no political resistance to building data centers. If you want to build a data center and the government says yes, you build your data center. There's no like protests. There's no community saying, hey, we don't want this ugly thing in our neighborhood. In China, if you want to build a data center, you build a data center. Their weakness is their access to the latest AI hardware from NVIDIA and others. And right now, that's a problem. I think they might figure it out. I don't think it's as there's people who think they're gonna get past it, including Jensen. I'm not confident because they haven't caught up to SpaceX yet in orbital rockets. They haven't even caught up to Falcon 9 yet. It's really hard, and they may not have everything they need to get it done. And I think it was Huawei has some new approach to building chips, but it's like they expect to be producing chips in volume with that process 5 years from now. That's not impressive. There's gonna be a lot of change in 5 years. So I think China may figure a lot of this stuff out, and with their advantage of electricity, their advantage of infrastructure, their advantage of supply chain, their advantage in the ability to build out data centers, they may end up being a huge leader. They do have models. My experience so far when I've used the Chinese frontier models is no, they're not as good. Will they catch up on the models? Maybe. I've used DeepSeek in particular. I think I used one other one, and I was not impressed. So I want to turn to number five, my number four wild card.
Go.
Some teenager somewhere in the world is in his mom's basement hacking away on a laptop, and he uncovers a new algorithm for making AI work. I'm not saying this kid is it,
Go.
but I'm not saying this kid is it, but I'm just saying that somewhere a lot of the massive tech advances in the world have been, how Mark Zuckerberg was in his dorm room, right, with Facebook. Michael Dell. Um, there's a lot of young, innovative people. I think Sergey Brin and Larry Page were maybe they're PhD students. Somebody's going to figure out because there's some fundamental issues with AI. Like we think they should learn faster. We think they should learn more efficiently than they do because humans learn faster and more efficiently than the AIs do. We use a lot less. Our brains use a lot less energy for the compute that our brains do. So is some teenage kid in his mom's basement, could be a girl too, don't forget Mira, is some teenage kid in their mom's basement going to come up with some crazy new algorithm that makes AI learn a lot faster on a lot less compute? And is that going to change the game? And is this going to be the world's first quadrillionaire? I don't know. Or the world's second trillionaire after Elon? It's possible. I think there's some real potential there. Uh Yeah, I haven't used an alarm. Well, I use an alarm when I have to go do something, but okay. So I think we covered that. So let's see. So that's basically it. For that point, we're going to go on. We have some more to talk about in this video. But for me, it seems obvious that OpenAI and Anthropic are in trouble. I know, like, if you've ever used OpenAI, ChatGPT, and Anthropic, every once in a while you get throttled. I've had multiple bad experiences with Claude where, like, think about this: if you're trying to grow your company and somebody says, "Oh, there's a free version of their app, you should try it," and I've gone on Claude and been told, "No, it's not working. No, it's not available right now." That's a terrible user experience, right? That's not a user experience you want your customers to have. You're not going to get new customers if their first experience with your product is unavailable. You told me this was free and it's not available. I've had some failures with, ChatGPT refusing it, just, the model's busy right now. I've had almost zero problems like that with Grok and Gemini. With Gemini, I make a video. That video was Grok, but I did make a version of that with Gemini, which was pretty good, but not right. Um, it throttled me on how many I could make. Scott says I keep an eye on where Karpathy is. Karpathy's at Anthropic. I think that Karpathy's great, but it doesn't mean he's a good judge of the business. There's understanding the tech and there's understanding the business, and I'm not convinced that Karpathy understands that. I love Karpathy. You're wrong. I love Karpathy, but that doesn't mean he understands where the business is going. And I think he himself would tell you that Elon sees things that others don't see. That Elon has great intuition for this. I've seen him say that Elon has intuition that he doesn't have. So, um, to me, OpenAI, Anthropic, all they have is models. They don't have. I don't think they have a significant advantage. Like, is Claude better at coding right now? Yes. Is it much better? I'm not convinced it's that much better. It's a lot more expensive. Um, it's not a very good chatbot. I've had it multiple times. Oh, that was one of the things I got to show you. So I did this. Some friend of mine sent a friend of mine sent me this in a DM group. Had to get a colonoscopy. Guess you could say I had a camera in Diaz. A camera in the ass, right? And I asked multiple LLMs to explain the joke. Grok, Gemini, and ChatGPT got it. Claude, DeepSeek, and Meta all failed. Claude, supposedly the best AI model, failed on something that ChatGPT, Grok, and Gemini all got. So they're better at one thing, they're not as good at other things. And there was another one I did where only Gemini got it. I forget what the other one was. There was some other question that I asked all the AIs, and Gemini was the only one. Even Grok didn't get it, ChatGPT didn't get it, Claude didn't get it. So all the frontier models have strengths, all have weaknesses. In my experience, DeepSeek, which is the Chinese AI, or one of the Chinese AIs in Meta, are much worse than the other four. Claude is better than. I'm using Claude right now. I use these AIs a lot. I use every month I switch which AI I use as my strength and training coach. I take notes from every workout session. I share them with an AI. I share my history, my goals, and I have conversations with the AIs. ChatGPT is very good at this, probably the best. Claude, it's okay. Grok, it's okay. I don't think I've done Gemini yet. Um, I'm doing Claude right now. It's okay. It's not bad. I think ChatGPT is probably better. They're all kind of like kiss my ass too much, actually. But Mark says Grok helped me with a broad range. So they're all helpful. I talk to Grok and ChatGPT every day, a lot. Those are the two I use the most, and I use Gemini a lot also. So, um, I just fundamentally see it as the frontier models don't necessarily have an edge yet. Whoever has the lowest cost of compute and the most compute is going to have more resources to devote to training their model, and that's going to be the biggest deciding factor, and that favors SpaceX and Google. And then it doesn't matter how good your model is. If I'm a customer and I come to use your model and you tell me it's not available, I'm going to switch to somebody else. And if I'm a customer and your model is 10 times as expensive as somebody else, at some point I'm going to say, this other guy's only 1/10 the cost. So that's and then so the primary conclusion is I think SpaceX and Google are likely to win of the players we see. The hardware chain, everybody wins. Nvidia, AMD, Broadcom. Do they do they win enough to justify their hardware? Their current stock price is another question, but they're all going to succeed and sell tons of hardware to tons of players. And I think the hyperscalers all make money, but who's the real winner? The real winner is somebody who's able to leverage multiple layers of the stack, and that's principally SpaceX and Google. And then you have China as an outside contender in about 5 years, and you have the kid in his mom's basement and the randos, the Miras and the Ilias and whoever else is out there that's got some startup with some idea that ends up turning into something big. So I want to move on, and we're gonna uh this where it hit my personal stuff. We'll hit some other things. So when I was 55, I couldn't do a pull up. This was yesterday. I can do body weight pull ups easily. And then this is with a 20 kilogram, 44-pound vest, and I can do a pull up. This is neutral grip pull ups, not pronated pull ups, but I can do a pronated pull up as well. I just so happened the old one was, I'll put that up again. So if you look at this, you see the grips were like this. This is with Ellie in space. Ellie's the one doing the video. Since I was doing neutral grips in that one, I did neutral grip in the other ones. You can see on the thing, I've got neutral grip, I've got chin up grip, and I've got pronated wide grip available. So I do all of them different days. I do different ones. But this is a lot of people have responded positively to this. This is an inspiration to some people. 5 years ago, I was weak. I am much heavier, but I am much stronger. A lot of the weight I added was muscle, and not just muscle, but productive muscle, useful muscle that actually functions well. So I just want to encourage people, it is possible. If you commit and you stick to it, you can really build some strength. You can really build some fitness. My resting pulse the other day was 46. My blood pressure yesterday was 111 over 64. And that's better than when I was 18 years old, when I was 120 over 70. So if you train, and I would say 30 minutes a day or an hour a day, but if you do 30 minutes twice a week, it's better than nothing. You can make a huge difference in your life and put yourself in much better shape 5 years from now than you are now. I really want to encourage people about that. Okay. Enough about me. On the Tesla hater category, Hedged is complaining about Elon making promises about FSD. And look, he's not wrong that Elon was over optimistic for years about FSD reaching a certain level, and it's taken a long time. But here he says in 2016, he said a coast to coast autonomous drive is coming next year, 2019, blah, blah, blah. So there's a guy named, I forget his name, David something. Somebody just did a coast to coast autonomous drive in a Model 3. David Moss or something like that. I forget his name. He's on X. So it was done. And there's multiple people who are outside the Tesla community who are talking about, hey, I just got a Tesla and it drove me home from the car dealership. I just picked up a Tesla at the airport and it drove me all the way there. I didn't have to do anything. I was vibe coding while the car was driving me. I'm not saying they're there yet for Robotaxi expansion, but I shared previously that they are now hiring for Robotaxi fleet management jobs in multiple cities, including cities they're not operating in yet. Um, so there's a lot. 14.4 asks, am I taking any blood pressure medications, diet, and exercise? I would say it's almost entirely exercise. I would love to say it's diet, but I suck at dieting. I'm trying, damn it. It's exercise. I do a crazy amount of cardio. I am um cardio just there's this concept called progressive overload, which is just look, if you're taking 5 years to do something, you only need very slow improvement. If you improve like every 2 weeks, 5 years is a lot, right? So when I started, yeah, sure, I was like level 6 on a bike, and I pedal 60 or so I would probably pedal 70 RPMs, whatever, something like that. And now I'm like, I literally had to buy a new bike, a special bike, because I was overpowering the bikes at the gym. And I can sustain, I hit over seven at the gym bike that I was using had a maximum of 500 watts. I am now pushing over 750 watts on my exercise bike. I bought a bike that I thought my bike could only go to 750 watts, but I hit 754 the other day. And that's in like a sprint, like a 20-second sprint. But I can sustain, what did I just do the other day? I sustained 310 watts, which is crazy for a 60-year-old. So it's just, consistent. And I do cardio now 3 times a week, roughly. It's about 40 minutes total, and some of that's warm up and some of it's cool down. But I go reasonably hard, and I, figure out what you can do, and then do a little bit more, and do a little bit more, and do a little bit more. 14 forces coast to coast with supervised FSD is very different than unsupervised. There's news that they only had 42 robo taxis in Austin. Look, no, he didn't touch the wheel. He went across the country. He didn't touch the wheel. It did everything. What difference does it make whether you call it supervised or unsupervised? He didn't touch the wheel. He didn't have to do anything. The car drove the whole way. Um, okay, so just this constant complaining. This is not being a visionary early. Being early means you ship eventually. It's a decade of selling a product that does not exist by describing the present tense. The most valuable car company ever was built on a sentence that has not been true a single time he has said it. So there's a lot of things that went into Tesla's valuation. There's a lot of things still going into Tesla's valuation. But look, if you feel this way, if you think I see these people who are like bashing Elon and they're bashing Tesla. Like, if you don't believe in the company, invest in something else. Tell me what you're investing in that you believe in. There's an endless flow of people who bash Elon and bash Tesla and bash SpaceX and bash Jeff Bezos. It's like, well, what companies do you believe in? Who do you think we should invest in? It's so easy to take shots at somebody you don't like, but tell me what the good investment is, and then you end up with Lucid Motors, Rivian, Aptera. Come on. 14 support says I use both a treadmill and stationary bike. I have a recumbent exercise bike from, I can't remember the name of the company, and I have a treadmill from Vision Fitness. Matrix. I think my bike is Matrix. Matrix, but it's a special bike that goes up to 750 watts. I had to search very hard to find it. So an exercise bike and a tread, and they're across the hall from where today I'm at home. This video is shot from home, but we have a building half a kilometer away where we have a cafe and a co-working space, and on the third floor I set up and I work on my the videos I do during the week, and I take breaks and I go across and I lift some weights, and in the morning on cardio days I pound out some cardio. But I literally just 3-4 times a day I walk across the hall and do some pull-ups. That's my workout now. Um, okay. So, the sour grapes, like tell me what you got. Tell me you got something better. I wanted to hit on Dwarkesh here. So if you're not familiar with Dwarkesh, one of the things I do on the AI stocks report is I do something called Podwatch. So Dwarkesh gets a lot of top AI tech leaders on his pod. And he had these two economist guys on. And it's like every time Dwarkesh does a pod, he goes on some tangent or it goes on he has some sort of mission that makes no freaking sense. So he had Jensen Huang on. And he was bashing Jensen Huang about China repeatedly. Like he answered your question, but he keeps going. Like he can't let go of something. So in this one, there's this question: is AI going to create jobs? Is AI going to destroy jobs? And these two economists were fairly thoughtful. I mean, it's a worth watching the podcast. Fairly thoughtful about the role of labor and capital in the share of productivity. And Dwarkesh just keeps going back to, well, we're going to need the government to take care of everybody. Like, it's entirely possible, and I would say it's likely, that AI is going to empower all of us to do more. We will all become more productive, and that will mean we will all become wealthier because we're more productive. The only way you don't become successful with AI is if you don't use it. You should learn. I talk to my kids about it. They don't listen, as usual. I talk, start using AI, get comfortable with AI, use it more, figure out how you can use it to help you accomplish the things you want to accomplish. And the more you figure out AI and the more you learn how to use it, the more successful you will be. If you just stare at the wall and refuse to touch it, then yeah, it might destroy your job. Maybe like maybe when the internet started, you should learn to use the internet. People who learned to program computers at the very beginning did very well. Like you see the wave coming. Are you going to ride it or are you going to let the wave wipe you out? You have a choice. Why does the government need to take care of you if you could everyone sees it. Everyone sees it coming. Everyone's complaining. Then learn it. Learn how to use it. Stop whining. But he wants government to come in. There's people who are productive who see the wave coming and they learn how to manage the wave and they learn how to be successful and they learn how to be productive. And he wants to take it away from us and give it to the people who don't even try. No, get off your ass and figure it out. That's the way humanity has always worked until some idiot came up with socialism. And no matter how much socialism fails, they keep coming back to it. I don't think Dwarkesh is that fundamentally a socialist, but it's in the back of so many people's minds is that well, we need the government to fix this problem. No, government is the goddamn problem. Government is 90% of the time, government is the problem. And the other 10% of the time, it's government's also the problem. They don't fix things, they fuck things up. Stop looking for government to fix things. And I'll say this, it's really simple. Name a politician you trust with your money. Not my money. Name a politician you trust with your money. I trust Elon with my money. I trust Jeff Bezos with my money. I trust Jensen Huang with my money. I trust Sundar Pichai and Demis Hassabis with my money. That's where I've invested. I don't trust the government with my money. I don't trust any politician with my what kind of idiot trusts the government with your money? You want the government to take somebody else's money. Why would you trust the government with your money? When have they ever demonstrated to you that they're any good at any of it? 144 says, what did you think of Bernie's suggestion of an AI wealth fund where the government takes 50% of all stock? I think you can guess what I think about that from what I just said. Bernie can go stuff himself. There's no, you wouldn't trust Bernie Sanders with a penny of your money. There's no way you would let Bernie take any of your money to do it. Like, you wouldn't trust Bernie to babysit your child. Seriously, would you trust Bernie Sanders to babysit your child? I wouldn't trust my Bernie Sanders to babysit someone else's child. Why would you trust these people? Elizabeth Warren? And frankly, Donald Trump, I don't want him having my money either. I don't, I can't think of a politician that I would say, oh, I want to give that guy my money. No. Why, where did this idea come from that you're going to give people money? That somehow you're going to put the government in charge of more, like they haven't screwed up enough already. We got to give them more money. It's ridiculous. Oh, well, we'll come up with a system that they can't screw up. Oh, yeah, we've got a really great history of that. All right, I ranted. I got out of control on that one. Let me back off. Then you got Lewis Hamilton. This is hilarious. He's on a podcast, and he complained. This is a guy he's worth like $500 million. He's one of the most successful race car drivers in world history. He makes like 60 million. I forget how much money. I don't know if it's $60 million a year, whatever. And he struggles with the disparity between the wealthy and the poor. When you drive around LA, there's so many people living on the streets. You shouldn't be able to have billions. Like, the guy's gonna have billions. But here's my question. This is one of those things. None of these interviewers ever asked these guys this question. And this is the question you should have asked them. So, do you think all the race car drivers should have equal pay? You're the highest paid race car driver. Why don't you push for every race car driver to get paid the same amount? Strangely, he's never pushed for that. These interviewers, they kiss the guy's ass. He says some stupid crap like this, like, well, then why don't you push for the Formula One racing to give everybody, all the race car drivers, equal pay? You shouldn't get paid more just because you won the race. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. There should be a limit to how much you can have because there's enough to go around for everyone. There is enough to go. Like, he's talking about Los Angeles. No one starves in. What did I just see? I saw somebody saying that, there's more people living in extreme poverty in America than China. Like, are you out of your mind? No one lives in extreme poverty. The only people who live in extreme poverty in America are the mentally ill who choose to live outside because they don't have a better chance. The biggest health problem in America is obesity. No one is living in extreme poverty. I live in Thailand. I've been in poor places in the Caribbean. I've been in poor places around the world. There is no extreme poverty in America. There's mental health issues. There's no poverty. It's ridiculous. So, um, I found that hilarious. I'm gonna might offend some people here, but this guy's talking about. He actually replied to me after I commented on this that the country Malaysia, which is just south of me, is having issues with refugees coming from Myanmar, which is also near me. and there's refugees from the civil war, and Malaysians are engaging in hate speech and online attacks targeting the Rohingya refugees from Malaysia. Um, and this guy's criticizing that, and I just pointed out, like, where's Greta? Where's Greta? Where's the left? Where are the student protests against Malaysia not taking care of refugees? Where's not to mention the Indonesian genocide of the Papuans in West Papua? Where are the student protests? Why are they only protesting Israel? You know, why aren't they standing up on this? Now, he sent me like Greta did speak out on behalf of the Rohingya, but she didn't criticize the Malaysians. She didn't criticize the Indonesians. Um, I just thought this was an interesting little detail. Sorry, because I'm in Thailand. This came up, and I already so that's all my material. So I'm going to look at the chat now. I can take off my. Could have taken off my headphones a while ago. What do I think of? We covered that. Bernie is very good. We're talking about Bernie Sanders now. Bernie is very good at misdirection. The point people miss is they would not stop at controlling AI. They will go after any industry that offends them. Mark Andreessen was, I think, on Joe Rogan, and he talked about how the Biden administration called him in and they said, you're going to have to stop making AI. We don't want independent companies making AI. We're going to pick 3 companies, and the administration is going to control the AI. And Rogan says, well, what did you do then? He says, I walked out and started endorse Donald Trump. Like the Democrats want to control everything. They don't care about you. They will say they care about you. They don't care about you. They don't care about me. They don't care about poor people. They care about power. Republicans aren't. I'm not saying the Republicans are a whole lot better. I'm not sure they're any better. But the idea that the Democrats care about you and they're going to tax the rich people to help you, they don't care about you. They care about power. They care about control, and they don't like these rich people having power. They can't control. Be nice says a lot of elders live in poverty. You just don't see them. A lot of elderly people are overweight. Like I said, the biggest health problem in America today is obesity. I think that you see people that you think live in poverty and you don't know what real poverty is. About 2 football fields from where I'm sitting, from my house, there is a community, which is basically a corrugated aluminum or corrugated steel wall around an area where the poor people live in Thailand. You don't know poverty until you go to a place like Thailand, and then you see because the middle class people in Thailand don't live like this, but there's millions of people in Thailand. A lot of them from Laos or Myanmar, or Cambodia, who are low-level laborers who live dirt. I don't when I say dirt poor, I mean the floor is dirt. There's a lot of poverty here. Like, and there's plenty of people who live well, but there's a lot. You have no idea what poverty is until you go to a country where there's actually poor people. And Thailand isn't the bottom. Thailand looks down on India, Bangladesh. There's all these issues with people from India coming to Thailand, and there's some open discrimination in Thailand, and I've seen it. And they're discriminating against Chinese, not because the Chinese are below them; they just don't like them, and they discriminate against Indians. And there's like it's so comical that everybody likes Thai curry, but you can't find an Indian restaurant in a Thai area in Thailand. Thai people don't want Indian curry. There's Indian restaurants in tourist areas, but not in Thai areas. Drive over the border to Mexico if you want a nearby real demonstration of poverty. Mexico isn't close to Thailand. Mexico has 4 or 5 times the GDP per capita of Thailand. Mexico isn't even close to poor compared to Thailand. And Thailand isn't that poor. Laos and Cambodia are much more, and Myanmar are much poorer than Thailand. Be Nice says, I live in a 55 plus community. There's a lot of people here who can't afford food. Okay, I don't know your situation, but in America, you have Social Security, you have Medicare, you have Medicaid, you have food stamps, you have soup kitchens. Come to Thailand. Come to Thailand and see. I know that there's people who are struggling, but poverty ain't the same. You don't know real poverty until you see it. And do they live with, you said they live in a 55 plus community. Is there a gate? Is there, do they live with dirt floors? Do they have bugs in their house all the time? Like, do they have stray dogs wandering on the property? Do they Do they have drinkable tap water? Do you realize that most of the world does not have drinkable tap? I don't think people realize what poverty really is. We have bottled water because we don't have drinkable tap. Thailand does not have drinkable tap water. Most countries in the world do not have drinkable tap water. You have no idea what real poverty is. Not to mention the air pollution, which is not bad where we live. We moved here because that reason. So, okay, I think we covered everything. Um, quick, just reminder. Um, let's fire this up here. If you are interested in investing, long-term investing, which is what my focus is on this channel, and you're interested in another perspective on long-term investing, this is not trading options. This is an approach I have to looking at options as a long-term investment, looking at options, primarily options that are more than 2 years out. The ones we look at are December of 2028. So 2.5 years out. Thinking about number one, how you might invest in them, and number two, what seeing the pricing of these long-term options is and what that means for how you can use that to think about the values of the stocks you might buy. And then some strategies you might use with these long-term options. So I've just gotten started on that. We've done 4 or 5 videos on it so far. There's more to come. Um, so if you are a YouTube channel member, if you are a Patreon supporter, if you are an X subscriber, you get access to my options videos. And I hope that helps you. The number of YouTube channel members has grown dramatically. The number of X subscribers has grown significantly. The YouTube channel members, I've been very, very pleased with how much it's grown. So please consider supporting me on these platforms. YouTube channel member, X subscriber, and Patreon supporter. And thanks everybody so much for watching. Thank you, Mark, for moderating the chat. Thank you, B, for being here. 14.4. Thank you all. Many people have a home. Yeah. Okay. Thanks everybody so much. Bye bye.